the trailer so we can gauge what to expect. The main idea of this is to introduce its characters and I guess their basic hobbies or whatever, which actually goes by pretty fast, which makes sense since it is a 30-second ad. But it might be a little too fast, so I'll just like break everything down. And you will thank me once I do, because these characters, they all look pretty much the exact same, and things are going to get pretty confusing pretty fast if these characters aren't immediately distinguished. So the trailer itself is narrated by Coco.
Saddle up and ride into the world of Wild Maze. I'm Coco,
who's the lead character who also works as a barista, I suppose. The first friend she introduces is Bailey.
Bailey, surf's up, Cherry!
I'm not really sure what to think of this voice. And from this, the impression a lot of us probably have is just like how Applejack's whole character is Apples, surfing is going to be Bailey's entire character. Can't wait. Also, it's kind of weird how the line that they chose to showcase here makes mention of a Cherry.
Cherry?
Who is the next character introduced?
Cherry. Here, help yourselves.
So, shouldn't Cherry have come first so that this line actually makes sense? I mean, I guess it doesn't ultimately matter in the grand scheme of things since this is just a 30-second trailer after all, but still, not the best first impression, I'll say. However, how is this next pony, Candy, not just Pinkie Pie?
Welcome back to Candy's Corner. I have some breaking news.
We'll talk about the art direction of the show a lot more in depth later, but if you have a main cast of characters that are colored like normal horses, yet you have this one pinkish horse be this outgoing, cheery, high-pitched voiced one of the group, you're not really doing yourself any favors with the My Little Pony comparisons. Though on that topic, as a stark contrast to My Little Pony, because Candy wields a selfie stick and appears to have a vlog, it does open up an opportunity to set the show up with a more distinct voice away from My Little Pony.
Explore their world and ride into...
Same with this robot. That looks pretty awesome. Sure, I mean, I'm clearly out of the target demographic of the show, but it does seem worth checking out at least. Anyways, with that said, before we talk about the actual episodes, I think it's worth to see what inspired this series and all that good stuff. Well, Wild Manes was created by this toy company, Jakks Pacific, which I've literally never heard of, so I made sure to look through their website and find relevant information, right? What I found interesting is how they have this sidebar that shows products from other companies they manufacture toys for, such as Nintendo, Sonic, Disney, The Simpsons, whatever. Yet they have Wild Manes lined up next to them, which I think is a bit of an odd tactic. Come on, Wild Manes is supposed to be a crowning achievement. Don't just fit it snugly next to those big name brands. Now, I'm not sure if they did this to make it seem like Wild Manes is up there with the world famous companies, or if they did this so that people looking for big brand stuff also end up seeing their original series, or what. But if that was their intention, I can see that completely backfiring. Since I'm sure quite a bit of people will just look at the big brand stuff and barely acknowledge this one random thing. But I don't know, I'm just talking in a very general sense. You might disagree. Like, the website doesn't even have anything Wild Manes related on the homepage. Take some pride in your work. Then I thought, you know what, I don't know anything about this company. Maybe Wild Manes ain't their first rodeo at this sort of thing. Maybe they have a bunch of other original toy lines and shows and stuff like that. So I made sure to poke around more on the website and took notice of this list with their original stuff, with Wild Manes listed off loud and proud. From this, I just had to look into these other brands to see if they were as expansive as Wild Manes, and maybe I just happened to look up the lamest one on the list. Let's try that again. Well, I guess not. I don't know. Let's just look up another one here. Third time's the charm, right? Ah! Well, to be fair, they have this giant RC dinosaur thing, and I want one? Well, anyways, on the dedicated Wild Manes page, we are greeted with this pretty beautiful art of the characters. Though, I guess it pretty much immediately confirms that there ain't gonna be any male characters. Which just reminds me of how people would joke how, because in My Little Pony, females outnumber males, most male-on-male couples must reproduce using magic. But judging by the fact that these horses don't got no magic... Anyways, the page, aside from the merch, which we shall be taking a much closer look at a little later, has this blurb written on it. Ride into Wild Manes, trademark. A whimsical world full of girls' favorite things. Food, friends, flair, and fun. These adventure-loving horses are the center of Main Lane with their colorful manes, shop on wheels, and signature styles. Be part of their friendship and wild adventures this summer 2024 with the launch of the Wild Manes, trademark, animation series, and Roblox, trademark, game. Which, we might as well just kill two birds with one stone here because this is also the same description that's in their YouTube About Me. So I'm guessing that this description is worth digging into. First of all, I like food and friends and flair and fun. Am I a girl all of a sudden? Secondly, sure, whatever. It seems fun enough. It even says, hey, you're new to the town of Wild? Well, hang on to your horseshoes and gallop over to Main Lane, the wildest, liveliest, friendliest place in town. There should be a comic here, but sure, I'll bite. Let's watch. Now, I know I kept referring to the series as a show, and I will continue to do so for the sake of simplicity, but I guess that term might be a little bit misleading because this ain't anything on television. It's just like a 5-minute web series on YouTube. So let's just breeze right through these. But before we do, I do want to preface this by saying that this isn't my first attempt trying to upload this video, because all the footage I was using was getting copyright claimed, surprise, surprise, so I had to put a giant watermark over any extended amount of footage. But you'll get the general idea, so enjoy! The first episode is called Heard It Wrong, which I swear, if a lot of these episodes end up having puns as titles, I think I'm gonna fall in love with the show.
Cherry!
So the first thing we're greeted to is a cold open of the friend group in the middle of running towards a direction just for Coco to look at the camera and say this.
Bet you're wondering what's happening. Let me catch you up.
We'll come back to this whole fourth wall breaking narrative convention later on. For now, this subscribe pop-up kind of rubs me the wrong way, since like, right after this cold open, we see what appears to be the theme song, I guess. This pop-up appears again anyway, so why would you put the pop-up at the very beginning and disrupt what's actually going on in the episode? Well, we'll come back to this too. So we get a flashback to earlier in the morning, with Coco continuing to narrate.
It all started earlier when I was having a busy cafe morning.
Is this narrative convention gonna get distracting? We'll see. Anyways, we see that she's working as a barista, and this happens.
I don't know, warm gingerbread cocoa or iced cocoa. Ooh, maybe peppermint hot chocolate or ooh, maybe maple syrup.
Now, I can see a lot of people finding this character, Finley, to be annoying, but I think this kind of behavior is sort of cute. Plus, I like her voice. It's very goofy.
I'm finally, almost certainly, mostly decided that I'd like.
I think this sort of stuff is just endearing. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Well, Cherry appears and says all these things on the phone that just so happen to sound like she's skipping town.
I'm packing up right now. I do think a change of scenery would be good. I've been waiting for this day for a long time, and I'm finally ready to go.
Go.
And from this, Coco assumes that she really is ditching. I mean, obviously, this is all a misunderstanding. And if you have more than 2 brain cells to rub together, you can, like, use inductive reasoning to see that she's one of the main characters. Therefore, there's no way that she's gonna be actually moving away. Yeah, we've all seen this plot a billion times before. Also, with the elephant in the room, these phones. Sure, we should ask how these horses use phones with hooves, but let's just save all that kind of stuff for a different time. Anyways, I suppose TV shows with this trope doesn't exist in this universe, because Coco assumes that Cherry is moving away, citing these reasons as why she shouldn't.
She can't leave. She has friends here.
Well, she can make new ones, plus you all have phones to keep in touch with.
And a tea and treat shop.
Well, if she's ready, like she said, she probably has business stuff all figured out already.
And she makes the best macarons ever.
What narcissist? So Coco tells Finley that Cherry is moving away, and they go down to the surf shack where Bailey works and tells her this.
Cherry is packing up and leaving town.
Coco overheard Cherry talking. She said a change of scenery would be good for her.
Well, if she's moving on the basis that it's gonna be, quote, good for her, you'd be bad friends to not at least consider the fact that it may actually be good for her. That's dumb. Also, I'm not sure what to think of this surfing vernacular.
Surf and saddles! That is so unchill!
This just seems like how Applejack uses apple expressions.
Being sisters is like apple pie.
But I'll try my best to see this as its own thing. But before I can even talk about that, this happens.
Does Candy know? Candy! She'll want to hear this news, especially for her video channel.
First of all, video channel? Really? I mean, where do I even start with this? If we're to translate this sentence directly into real life lingo, it would roughly be would want to hear the news, especially for her YouTube channel, which is a clunkily worded sentence, but we get the idea of what it means, since we've seen in the trailer that Candy is a vlogger, so she would want to talk about it on her channel and keep her fans updated. Alright, fine, that makes sense. But couldn't they think of a name for whatever YouTube is in this universe? I would have instantly breathed the breath of a batch of world building into the show. Secondly, they had this exchange earlier.
Cherry is leaving town!
Why didn't she tell us?
I guess she didn't want anyone to know.
So you yourself admit that Cherry didn't want anyone, including her closest friends, to know, yet you think that this is information that should be spread to literally everyone and anyone? Especially on a public forum such as a vlog? Think! Well, then they get to Candy and this happens.
That is the saddest news I've ever heard! Welcome back to Candy's Corner. I have some breaking news.
Which is actually pretty funny. She seems dramatic and somewhat sociopathic based on the fact that either she was genuinely sad and crying, yet was able to turn her tears off right away, or she was fake crying for theatrics, and decided to stop as soon as she turned her camera on. And it's not like she was only not crying on video just to like cry after the camera turns off, since when she turns the camera off, she doesn't go back to crying while her friends still are. That's actually pretty funny. Though it is kind of dumb how she immediately thinks that this is an appropriate topic to talk about on her video channel without a second thought. This is more evidence towards this new Candy is a sociopath here that I just came up with. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but she's coming across as like super disingenuous, which is actually funny and is giving me some thought to chew on in the midst of this show for toddlers. And really, on top of that, she's pretty cute and I think she's my new favorite e-girl.
I'll bring her one of my famous sugary sweet candy apples.
Wow, I guess she's a mix of Pinky and Applejack. Anyways, the friend group decides to all bring Cherry gifts to convince her not to leave.
I'll whip up an extra special chocolate almond and pumpkin spice double sprinkle cup of cocoa with extra marshmallows.
Bruh, she had coffee earlier in the day. That's quite a bit of caffeine for one day, don't you think? As they're all marching towards Cherry, we finally come full circle with the cold opening where Coco says,
Whoa! So, I think you're all caught up now. Come on!
yeah, that is a bit of a strange narrative rhetoric. Now, once again, we'll come back to that. I just want to make note of it when it happens so you actually know what I'm talking about later. Anyways, we actually finally get the context for the Surf's Up line from the trailer.
Surf's up, Cherry!
And, was this really necessary? I'm not sure if it even applies to the situation here. It's like they just wanted, like, a snappy shot for their trailer, which... fair enough. Though it's notable how Finley says,
We're doing the right thing, aren't we?
which does remind me of what they said earlier where they admitted that Cherry wants to move for her own good.
She said a change of scenery would be good for her.
I guess this one line basically explores that perspective. You know, one of, if you love me, let me go. But all of that nuance gets dashed in half a second when Candy says this without a second thought.
Of course we are. She's making a terrible mistake.
This is even more evidence to think that Candy is some sort of sociopath slash narcissist. So they all find Cherry, and we get this shot of this apple flying off, and that got a pretty good chuckle out of me. Also, this happens.
I'm not going anywhere. I'd never leave Wild and all of my wonderful friends. Where'd you get such a silly idea?
Which is also pretty funny. The way that her friends just look at her with the whole insert swear word here, you've got to be kidding me look is pretty funny. It's very goofy and sort of has elements of cringe comedy in it, which My Little Pony didn't really touch upon. So I guess that's another theme you could explore that would give the show a unique voice. It's also pretty subtle, or at least as subtle as a show like this could get. And if all these episodes to come all feature animation gags like this, I can see myself checking out a couple more episodes out.
But I heard you at the cafe earlier. You were on the phone.
Anyways, they clear up this whole misunderstanding, and man, are we lucky that Cherry somehow literally remembered everything she said on the phone earlier.
Yes, I am packing up a really big order. It's almost time to go to the market, but it's just for the day.
Anyways, with Cherry specifying that she was actually talking about order for her macarons, her friends all help her, and we end the episode off like this.
I'm glad. Here, help yourselves.
Sweet.
You're the best.
No, you are.
No.
You are.
You are.
You are. No, you are.
I like how the episode ends before we get to actually see them eat the macarons. Since how the frick are you supposed to animate these horses grabbing these tiny things from a box? Now, we'll get to my thoughts on the overall atmosphere of the show so far later on, but that was the first episode. Let's now move on to the second. The main machine. This episode also starts off in the middle of the action, where we see this robot from the trailer terrorizing the girls. Then this horse tells Coco,
This is not happening. This is...
Coco, it's happening. So we can either run away or we can find a way to stop this man-made machine.
wow, a logical thinker. I like you already. Well, the cold opening ends with Coco breaking the fourth wall and us getting the theme song.
How did we even get into this mess?
Title credits, I really don't know what to call this thing. Anyways, the episode proper starts off with Coco working the till at her coffee shop, just like the previous one. Is this how every episode's gonna start like? Well, Cherry orders a...
Double mocha with extra whipped cream. My fave.
Her fave, huh? So, is this the usual from the last episode?
Hey, Cherry. The usual?
You know it.
And if so, does that mean that Coco probably already knows that this is her fave, which makes this bribery tactic of her getting something else to convince her not to move from the last episode quite a bit of a head scratcher.
And I'll whip up an extra special chocolate almond and pumpkin spice double sprinkle cup of cocoa with extra marshmallows.
Since that's clearly a different drink than her fave.
Double mocha with extra whipped cream. My fave.
But also, maybe not, I don't know. Since the drinks that Cherry orders in these two episodes, the usual and her fave, are clearly different. Anyways, Bailey is also standing in line, yet instead of actually ordering anything from her place of business, she decides to complain that there ain't any waves to surf on today.
What can I get you, Bailey?
Some excitement. I wanted to surf the waves today, but there aren't any.
Sure. So the trio decide to think of something fun to do with this exchange happening.
We could go for a trot or clean up the town.
Is she serious?
And I actually like this dynamic. It's like the whole, let's do good for society. Why? It's a nice contrast. Or at least until Cherry brings up her next suggestion,
Or bake cookies.
with Coco responding to that.
Cherry, you bake cookies every day.
That kind of ruins the flow of the joke, which makes me think that this wasn't even supposed to be a joke in the first place. I don't know. So they settle upon having a spa day, with Cherry saying,
Oh, if only Perla were here, we could all have a
ruins the flow of the joke, which makes me think that this